So for the Americans, I've actually taken quite a few different branches in this, covering pretty much everything. So we'll start with the Cunningham here. I have done pretty much everything except the engine and the tracks. I kind of just ground this tank out. Again, they seem to have changed it so that the cannons and the turrets are now separate from different upgrades here. And I don't remember all this being the way this was. But oh well. So anyway, the Cunningham is just straight up a grind. I could not find anything in particular about it I liked. I think I upgraded to one of these two. It's been so long ago, I just remember grinding it out. It's tier 1, it wasn't that difficult to grind through, but anyway, I seem to be doing very well with the American tanks. So we'll go down the SPG line first. So we start with the T-57. It's an alright SPG. The problem is, it has a very short range. Its range is about half of the battlefield. So, you really do need to throw engines in there so that you can speed around and get to where you need to go. But, overall, it's alright. It does pack a pretty good punch, but the problem is, like I said, the range is that of about half the battlefield. So if you're playing on a camp map such as Camp Nova, or the one with the gorge in the center, I don't remember what it's called, well, pretty much, yeah, any of the camping maps, you're going to have problems, because you have to pretty much cover just your zone. You cannot somewhat go into the no man's land and do anything there. So it's kind of a grind, this SPG. The M37, on the other hand, is actually pretty good. You can upgrade its gun here to the 105 howitzer, which allows you to actually have range to the whole board, and it starts hitting pretty hard. You'll be dealing damage to pretty much anything that's a tier 6 or below. It does have a pretty decent firepower to it. It does move kinda slow, as with any SPG, but overall, it's not half bad. I haven't really played any of the others. It has a very decent ammo load, but it does require some grind to get to that gun that can actually have full battlefield range, because the starting gun definitely does not, and it does make it, again, just like the previous tank, difficult to deal with, as you have to really cover just your sector or venture out and try and be a forward artillery battery. So, that leads to the Priest, which also suffers from that same thing, where you only have half the range of the battlefield, but once you upgrade to the normal gun, it does get a lot better. Throwing the tracks and the engine onto it make it go really fast. It does have a significant speed, but also the upgraded gun does some pretty heavy damage. I've been able to take out lows with it without much problem. I mean, obviously I was being supported by my teammates, but overall it was not bad at all. And that leads me to my favorite SPG, the M41. It's kind of a debate as to which gun you want more. The starting one is faster rate of fire, less damage, but quicker to aim. The upgraded one is devastatingly powerful, but it's slow to reload and slow to aim. I threw the engine and the tracks on there, and it really does get up and move. It actually moves faster than the Hummel on the flatland, but it has slightly worse turning ability and slightly less uphill speed than the Hummel. Overall though, this thing can book it, and it has a great gun in case you do need to go into close combat with it. It will be a shotgun and it will level people. But bombarding, I do recommend the upgraded 155. I liked it. Did very decent damage. Your splash damage is also pretty incredible. Overall, M41 so far is my favorite SPG. We'll have to see as time goes on, but I certainly like it. Now, from the Cunningham, we go into the two different splits here. The medium to heavy, or the light to medium. So we'll go from the medium to heavy, starting with the M2 medium. It actually is a very strong tier 2 tank with some decent gun options on it. Again, I'd recommend, of course, obviously going down this line here, getting the turret and getting the 37mm M5, but it is a strong armored tank for being tier 2. While not as awesome as some of the other ones, like the 35T, it is pretty nice. I do like it. But it leads to the M2 medium, which is kind of a grind. It's alright. Nothing really spectacular behind it. Once you upgrade to the 75mm howitzer though, it can start devastating a lot of different tanks that it will come up against. Overall though, it's alright at best. I mean, a few decent upgrades here and there, they help, but not overall. And it leads it to probably the worst medium tank ever, the M3 Lee, which I actually didn't know this was now a tree here that you can branch into the priest. But the Lee, its gun is great, but it is a tank destroyer that tries to be a tank, is what it is. Because they do not give you the access to fire the main top turret yet, which should be housing a 37mm on it, which does make this tank a lot better, because then you'd have the long-range main gun and then the close support, which I've often run into the problem of needing, because I'd whittle an enemy down to like 5 hit points and then they'd flank me, and this thing does not have a good turning radius. So the problem is, like I said, it acts as a tank destroyer, but a much taller profile. So you have the problem of your main gun kind of getting stuck, not being able to do much, where your top is exposed completely. So it's very situational, and it is a rough grind, but you have to do it. My best match has actually been in an M3 Lee, though. I have gotten 7 or 8 kills in it. So overall, it's not bad. I just didn't like it. That's my personal opinion. But it does lead into 2 different tanks here. We'll go with the heavy route. The T1 Heavy, it's alright. It's, when you get the upgraded gun, it makes it a lot better because it can fire a lot faster. This gun right here, the 76 M1A1. But it's kind of big and bulky and slow. Overall, I'd say it's alright. Certainly isn't my favorite. It does work, but again, it's not a heavy that I prefer. I've yet to really, well, no, the KV certainly would be my tier 5 choice. If you don't want to do US stuff, I would not recommend it. And also, it leads to his bigger brother, the Bread Loaf, or the M6. It also is it is fairly bad at its tier. It only has the 76mm that you have on all the other tanks, just they keep getting a slightly faster rate of fire, but it eventually gets the 90mm, which really does open up and can damage anything and everything that it touches. So when you can get up to that 90mm, you're golden. But up until then, it is a slowly painful tank, gigantic size, does have a decent bit of armor though, so luckily that helps offset it. It is not my favorite by any means, but I'm still working through it. Now that I have the 90mm, hopefully I'll start enjoying it a lot more. I'm kind of looking forward to getting this T29 though. I have a lot of people who recommend that. Now, going back, we have that little in-between tank here, the Sherman. It can unlock the Easy 8, but it's good on its own right. Personally, I liked it a lot. You can get the 76mm gun on it, and it fires really fast and hits really hard. I really recommend going this way, along with the engines. It becomes a great flanking support tank. Not as strong as the Panzer IV and it's that L70 gun, but it certainly is nice. You can stand up to a lot of stuff up to tier 6, some slight tier 7s. And it's mostly a support tank in this case. You obviously cannot go out on your own with it. But, I mean, it's a different option to go into the Easy 8 instead of going down the M7 line. So it's kind of a toss-up. Now, from the Cunningham, you get the option to go to the M2 light tank. The M2 light tank is an even earlier version of the Stuart. It has a few different options here, very similar to the T2 light tank. So overall, it's almost identical. It's just, do you want to go one path or the other? So it's alright. But that leads you to the M3 Stuart. The M3 Stuart is fast, pretty decent gun, but I did like it. It was fun to play with. It was a good scout, pretty fast. It could keep up with everything in its tier. I think the Panzer III off A was slightly better, surprisingly, but it's not bad. I did like it. It is slightly grindy, but not too bad. The M5 Stuart, on the other hand, it looks like it could be good, but it is certainly grindy. While you do get a decent 37mm, so you can scout and start damaging different types of SPGs and whatnot, the 75mm howitzer certainly does help it a lot, because then you're doing much heavier damage to things. But it is a slow rate of fire and it does have that crazy arc shot, so it sometimes goes wild and you're never going to hit what you shoot at. Overall though, it is a grind tank. You will get stuck in a lot of matches that you cannot compete in because you are technically considered a scout. So you will be seeing a lot of tier 8s, a lot of tier 9s. Sometimes you just cannot do anything against it all. So it's a grindy tank, but it does lead to the M7, which is a very good tank for tier 5. It's lightly armored, very fast, pretty decent gun on it. It has the Sherman gun on it. So I actually did like it a lot. I still play it from time to time. It has a lot of different toys to it to make it very fun to play. Because of its speed alone, you're able to quickly and easily flank tank destroyers and SPGs. I really do enjoy it. I'd obviously recommend going the engines and tracks first and then going your way down the guns, but it is pretty fun, and it does lead to the EZ-8. The EZ-8 is a great tank. I don't think I'd ever put it down. I can run around with it all day long, has a great quick ready to fire 76 mil, so it will do damage to most tier 6s and 7s. It'll start to struggle once you get up to the tier 8s, so it is very situational. It has its purposes. Overall though, I really did enjoy it. Obviously you upgrade everything in it, it becomes a really fun tank, and it leads to the T20, which I have unlocked, but I have not been able to purchase yet. Now, from there, we have the tank destroyer line. First off, we have the T-18. It has an amazing set of front armor. The gun on it, the 75mm howitzer, pretty funny. When you hit people with it, it just lays them out. So this tank, even with its starting gun, is very powerful, great front armor. It is a really, really fun TD. But it leads to the T-82, which is not that great. I ground through this thing as quick as possible. There were different options for different guns for it, but the 75mm howitzer was good enough. I used it as a shotgun tank, run up to people and just shoot them, and then it worked out sometimes in my favor where I'd destroy them. It was a grind. I'm not going to lie. It is not good at all. For its tier, again, the Martyr 2 is amazing. This thing, on the other hand, not so much. But the T-40 actually is one of the better T4 TDs because of the simple fact you get the 76mm AT M1A1, and that gun is devastating in that tier. You can quickly snipe other tanks without any issue, penetrating anything up to tier 6, and just in general you'll be put in a lot of tier 5 and below matches, so you'll have a lot of different options, and it really is nice. Simply put, one of the better TDs at tier 4, especially with that 76mm at how quick of a rate of fire it is. But it leads to the Wolverine, which is actually a great tank destroyer, simply because it has a turret. It has great sloped armor. I often had problems hitting it and destroying it, but it has incredible 76mm guns, especially this high rate of fire M1A2, so it becomes an interesting tank. I really recommend it. It was fun up until you start seeing tier 8s, you have a lot of problems. But tier 6 and below, you're doing excellent. You can get several kills with it. Now, the soft spot that you need to be very aware of is the turret. Shells will go through it without any issue. You have no armor on the turret whatsoever. So you need to be very careful about picking your targets and your ambush points. And when you usually just want to expose your turret with most American heavy tanks, because the turret's the most armored thing, this thing you kind of want to give a bigger profile so they have a better chance of hitting the hull, which has much better chance of bouncing. Even the front gun mantle on this thing is very thin and will easily be penetrated. So, anyway, that leads to my current tank, the
M36 Jackson.
With its 90mm is pure gold. With its 76mm, it's not bad. It could be better, but it can keep up with most tanks at its tier and tier 7. But the 90mm will really allow you to reach out and touch somebody. You can lay people out left and right, have no problem with lows, no problem with King Tigers. It is great. I cannot wait to play with it more. I just got it about a game and a half ago, so I cannot wait to toy with it more. It will lead to different things here. I'm probably going to get the turret and maybe the tracks, but I will get the T25AT soon enough. So, that covers it in terms of all the tanks I've played so far. That is my review of all the different tanks I've played. I hope to someday soon have everything else unlocked so I can recap absolutely every tank I've played, but it is a long road ahead of me. So, I leave it to you all to decide which track to go on next. Should I get the KV-3 or the KV-1S? Should I get the Panther or the Tiger or the VK3601? or the Jagdpanzer IV, or should I get the T... well, I can't get that yet. The T-20. Those are the options. I will purchase whichever one is recommended next, and I will give that one a shot. Currently I have to save up a lot for it. When I originally was going to ask this question, I had 2 million, so I was going to be like, so which does everyone want? But now I do not. I spent it all on different junk. So yes, my viewers, I leave it up to you to tell me which tank you would like me to see play through next. Hopefully you pick one that I won't have to suffer through. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for tuning into this review episode, and next time I'll return with some more normal in-game tank play. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.